We'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. No public present in the room, but as always, if there is public online or monitoring the meeting, please feel free to submit at any time, comment, and as it would come in, it'll be addressed. Next item on the agenda is the minutes from the May 30 meeting. Peter or Jessica, did you see anything in the minutes that needed?
No.
Nothing that
Yes.
I
Okay.
took issue with,
Okay.
so if you need it,
They'll stand approved as submitted then?
it
or
says
No
nothing
corrections. On to the budget report.
All right. So this is basically our end of year. Ouch. I will meet with Bill Jarocki tomorrow. He has developed a new tool for budget monitoring for the county. So each department gets their own workbook that they get to track the budget throughout the year in. I'm lucky in my budgets that I don't ask for a piece of the county pie. All my pie is designated already by mills. So we're pretty easy as far as that goes for the budgeting process. It's just making sure we might change how some of the line items are allocated. Obviously, we hadn't budgeted for machinery equipment purchase this year, so that's why that line item shows as negative. Otherwise, I did get notice that the my claim is approved, and so it is just now pending an issuance from the state as paid for the WHIP grant.
Okay.
So that should come in. When then we're sitting at, not counting the WHIP grant, our CIP is sitting at almost $400,000 for the weed department. Our ending balance for cash is also still really good. So.
Do you anticipate any major equipment expenditures or anything necessary in this next fiscal year? Or?
In this next Bill Jarocki would really like the board to consider looking at another truck, like equivalent to the Dodge, because of how the money is, and he doesn't know how our mills might change in the future with the next legislative year. So he thinks it might be a worthwhile purchase in the next year to do another larger vehicle like that Dodge.
Okay. Have they been looked at? Has the Dodge and the brown truck to know what we have to look forward to as far as maintenance? Or I know a few months ago we had visited a little bit about that.
I know that the brown truck needs repairs for the suspension. To my knowledge, the Dodge, after we fixed the issues last year, is in good repair.
Okay.
But the Dodge is 13 years old, 14 years old. Even though it is low miles, he does think it's worth considering spending the money while we can. I don't know his justification for that, but he does think it's worth our consideration.
I also have a feeling that trucks are going to be going up appreciably during this year. And so inflation.
We will do more chemical purchasing in the next fiscal year than we've done in the past, just because we haven't had the need. So now we're gonna branch out a little bit and not just do the same 4 products that have been in the tank. So
would it be better to deal with that before?
So I'm gonna make some
June 30th?
purchases now,
Okay.
before this fiscal year expires, and then
Mhm.
I'll make some in the next fiscal year, because we do have the budget
Okay.
this year. So
Yeah.
we're gonna expend that now.
Okay.
Makes perfect sense.
Who do you purchase that from?
So both Helena Chemical and CHS give us the state bid rate.
Okay, good.
Before you guys were on the board, we had the discussion about getting bids for the county for chemical purchases. And we went with doing state rate rather than getting bids from both contractors for the county specifically, because we don't purchase enough every year to justify their time to put a bid packet together for us.
Okay. As long as you have more than one, that's great.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
Any other questions in regard to budget?
No, not for me.
All right. Moving on to the ongoing business, anything from the commission that you're aware of?
No,
Okay.
not to my knowledge.
Grants and MOUs.
So I did mention the reimbursement for the WIP, and then we're starting on the Belts project with the Forest Service. That's going to get underway. And then we're rocking and rolling on the last bit of the WIP project, including the monitoring and expending the remaining funds for this season.
Has that gone well?
Overall, it's gone really well. We've treated a lot of acres that have needed it. When we did the initial application and then hit COVID and there was a lot of hurdles at the federal level, it really slowed us down. But we've caught up a lot last season, so.
All right, if there's no further comment there, moving on to spray update.
So the crews covered a good chunk of the front side of the lake down to Toston and Raidersburg area. They're now starting on what we're calling the East County roads, which would be kind of Nathan's area, and starting up some of the gulches on the back side of the lake.
Do we cover the gravel piece of 437, or is that a
So yes, we have
contractor?
done the gravel piece of 437, and our contractor did the other part of 437.
There's a huge batch of handmade.
Okay.
I was noticing when that didn't appear treated.
Okay.
I think a neighbor caught part of it. But it's on it'd be down in the Plunkett Lake
Okay.
area. On both sides of the road.
When did the crew start? What time? Was it May 1?
I don't. Hang on a second here. I do have that. So they started on the 10th, because of, I think, when they could start combined with when the payroll was. So they started on the 10th.
We're appreciably ahead of where we'd normally be.
Yes.
Aren't we?
Yeah.
I mean, just based on
The two
the
crews is
two
really
crews has made a huge difference.
made a
that
huge
way.
difference. And I was considering after we kind of get an initial thing on having them swap, so having the one crew go do the roads that the first crew did, and the first crew doing the roads the second crew did, so that they're not blinded by what they've seen before. And that gets my second crew to see all the county.
Have they had to respray a fair bit of area, or has that been?
They've
bad.
retreated some, but not as much as I thought they were gonna have to do. We didn't lose as much, but they have gone back and retreated some of the stuff that got rained out. And I've been sending the second crew out on rain days to go look at what they've done in the past.
Oh,
So they've been
effective-
scouting
effectiveness, okay.
on rain days, because the second crew wants the hours. My other crew will take the time when it's raining, be with family, so.
Yeah. Oh, and that's a wise use of time to go back and
Yep.
make sure things are working.
Yep.
Crews have worked out good.
Yes, they're working really well together and super communicative. It's just really great.
Good.
It's a really good crew
Good.
all the way around.
Glad to hear it.
It must make your job a hell of a
Oh,
lot
it's-
easier.
It's so nice.
Any questions in regard to the spraying?
No, not for me, thanks.
All right, moving on to vehicles and equipment.
Like everything's working currently. We did get the walls unit in for the mosquito side of things, and we're gonna mount that in the brown truck with the water tender tank. So we will play around with that arrangement. They'll go together.
No major issues?
No major issues, everything's working really well.
Good.
What percentage of your work is involved with mosquitoes versus the weeds?
So in the summer, it's about 50-50.
Oh, that, oh, really?
The mosquitoes really ramp up in the summer.
Yes,
and
yes,
it's
yes.
a lot shorter of a crew.
Well, we sure get them down at the Headwaters Park, my God.
Mm-hmm.
Is that in our county or not?
Parts of it are, there is a district down there called the Three Forks Mosquito District. It's significantly smaller than the Townsend Mosquito District.
I see.
And while it's under Broadwater County's management, we do use a contractor down there.
Mhm.
So he does the majority of the work in that area, as far as that
I
goes.
see. Yeah, 'cause boy, they sure get thick
Yeah.
there in the summer. Sometimes, all that standing water.
Mm-hmm.
Winter here, what, 80-20?
Yeah, more like 90-10, unless
Okay.
I'm doing something specifically for mosquito.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, I do a lot of the grant administration, mapping for the weed side in the winter.
Equipment-wise, have you run into anything with the new units that needs changed or that
No, everything
isn't?
seems to be working really well. I think that we'll take the next bout of rainy weather when I'm not doing budget and meetings, and we'll run through everything, make sure everything's working for everybody, but that's going well so
Oh,
far.
I know.
Nobody's complaining, nobody's saying, getting covered in chemical or anything. It's
Good.
going really well.
Good. Anything else? All right, moving on to the county weed list.
So at the last meeting, we talked about moving a couple of the weeds from control to manage. So there was some conversation about moving baby's breath and scotch thistle from the control to the manage side, where we wouldn't necessarily do enforcement on those species. The conversation I had with Nathan regarding the baby's breath is that it was mainly centered around the cemetery, and that we weren't seeing it as a problem countywide. and that maybe it didn't need to be on our required list. And then we talked about removing sunflowers from the list entirely.
Yeah, I was
As a-
gonna ask you about that. I sell a lot of annual sunflowers.
Yep. So under manage, it means people don't have to control it, but if somebody wants help, but yeah, I don't think it has a place on our list.
Okay. And which nettle is this? Is this stinging nettle?
It is the nettle that Nathan and John wanted. So I believe that it is stinging nettle, but
Okay. I guess just to clarify, it would be good to have Latin names with the species in 2
Okay.
and 3.
do you think that stinging nettle has a place on the managed list?
I guess if kochia's on the list, I suppose it should be too.
So
Yeah.
Russian thistle and kochia are on that list as everybody calls me because they're complaining about their neighbors, and we explained to them the situation, but we do offer them guidance on what to do about those species. Like I have information on you want to spray it, you want to pull it, how you can manage it.
Mhm.
Nobody's ever called me asking about how to control nettle,
Okay.
so.
Then maybe we could drop that.
Do we run into anything with cattle and difficulty with cattle from it? Do they ever eat it and get sick?
I've had some conversations with people about some of the things in the lupin family
Yeah.
and horses, but they're native species, so we can't.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
Yep.
So again, dealing with the Latin name on this would clarify some things.
My problem is that how many species do we want to list? There's a ton of
Lupins.
the lupins that
Yeah.
are going to affect cattle or horses. So
Yeah.
do we list all of them, or?
Yeah, that maybe would be tough on that species, but yeah, it's primarily mountain lupin, but not always. I guess the other question or point of clarification on this too, Palmer amaranth isn't on the 1A list. Or what is it?
And it
Yeah,
might
1A.
not be from when we drafted this,
Okay,
but from when it got listed.
okay, but it is listed now. And I guess the other thing too, I know that we've got a specific, a broadwater designated noxious list. This other list is a state list.
Yes.
Okay, so any authority that we have, we would have to take to the state.
So when we approve this plan and the commission approves the plan, then it goes to the Department of Agriculture, and then they have to approve our county listed weeds. So if we were to list a native plant on our county list, they're gonna kick it back and say, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Which is why most county lists are basically what they are,
Yeah.
give or take what's on there. There's kind of a general accepted list of things that they'll cover.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'll kick it back. So that's why we don't put Russian thistle or kochia on there.
Sure. Yeah.
That's why none of the natives are on there.
Okay.
The other question I had is, do we want to add mullein to our list?
It's a pain, but I don't think it's necessarily always causes economic hardship.
Mm-hmm.
If we do, I would say that should be under the 2 of the managed list.
So keep musk thistle on our musk control list.
Yeah, there's other winter annual annoying thistles too. And I can't remember the names of all, Scotch is one of them, but,
Have you encountered Scotch thistle in the county?
I am not sure. I am very weak on the various kinds of those. But I do know musk thistle, and I know that there's something other than musk thistle here too. But I don't know what it's called. I'm sorry.
No, well,
Yeah.
There's a bull thistle.
There's
a
bull thistle.
Yeah.
And they're just as ornery as musk. And
Yep.
I haven't, to what I think Scotch thistle looks like, I don't believe that I have seen it. I have seen
Okay.
bull thistle in the county,
Okay.
but I don't think that I have seen Scotch thistle.
that's one that we encounter that we.
And I only know musk thistle for sure because of what the seed looks like, and it's actually very difficult to remove from some of the crops we grow. So that's why.
So we'll keep musk thistle. How about baby's breath? Do you think we can move that down? Or,
I don't think that's a significant issue.
I agree.
okay. What about Scotch thistle? Move it down for now? So,
If you haven't seen it, let's move it down.
okay. Obviously I'd like to keep black henbane. You guys want to keep burdock on there?
Yeah.
And then perennial sow thistle.
I don't know. How often do you see it?
I don't see it very often. Nathan said that he sees it sometimes.
It was one of my favorites when I was up in Canada. But I've hardly ever seen it.
Yeah,
down
I
here.
haven't seen
Yeah.
it enough where I haven't had anybody bring it in and asking about it either.
It's not one I see.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I could. Bit down.
So my suggestion is that we move some of these down to the number 2 line, because then if somebody wants help with them, then we have the tools to offer them. And then if we all of a sudden see all of them, it's super easy to put them back up in one if needed.
Okay. One other point that I thought of on this item here, the sentence at the bottom here, these are all potentially native to Montana. I would put that as part of the toxic or poisonous statement because that only pertains to 3. Just to make sure it's
Okay.
clear.
I think that was just a formatting issue, but yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I see.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. As annoying as.
And I think we also should put something on there that there are other species that can cause harm to livestock. This is not just the only 5 species that are going to cause problems. There are
Right.
other native species.
It's not exhaustive.
Yep.
Yeah. I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're in agreement that sunflower could be
Just
struck.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
don't have any issue with that.
Yeah. Well, and it is native as well.
Yeah.
So the true annual weedy sunflower is a native plant.
Hmm.
So.
All right. Well, and then I will update the state list to what their current, how everything's currently listed.
There was one that it refers to the year, and it's 2010. There is a new listing out, and it's 2023. That egg,
Number 5.
yep, point number 5.
Okay. You said 2023.
2023 is the most recent one.
I'm gonna send this to the county attorney who does all the reviewing of these things, and she'll double check all of the MCA codes
Okay,
for us.
good.
'Cause-
Perfect.
So I think there might have been a change there.
yeah, they change frequently.
Okay.
Any other changes or thoughts in regard to the county list?
I do believe we need to post the changes to the county weeds for 30 days. I believe that is a posting requirement.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll-
Remember that from the past.
Yep, so I'll get the language typed up and then figure out those requirements.
I guess sometimes I have a hard time figuring out what priority 3 regulated plants mean too. Just, they're on the radar, is that basically it?
So it's basically, you can't move the seeds in the state. As far as you're not allowed to knowingly move cheatgrass seed, I believe.
Uh-oh. But
Interesting. I mean, I understand where it comes from, but you
Yeah.
see
well,
a lot of it move.
yeah, and a lot of it is not due to seed or hay, it's just,
The plant may not be intentionally spread or sold other than as a contaminant in agricultural products.
okay,
Uh,
seed or hay, yeah.
How is that policed?
Huh?
How's that policed?
I have no
Just out of
idea.
curiosity.
I have no idea.
That's a hard one to monitor.
When we get into that area, I'm gonna defer to you two, three, because you know a lot more about this than I do.
You know what? Palmer amaranth is not on the current weed list. I bet it's going to be added this year,
Okay.
but it is not on their current list.
Should it be on ours if it's
It-
not on
yeah, it
theirs?
should be. I would say,
would
yeah.
agree with
So
that.
yeah, so I think we could add it to ours and then it's covered.
It should be on a list.
It's on the regulated seed, under the Federal Seeds, or the Seeds Act as a, it's listed as a restricted weed with 0 tolerance on seed front, so, which is interesting. It's easier to do it that way, but because it's actually native to Arizona too, that's the problem, so.
Let's see here.
And it survives that far, this far north, yeah?
It mutated to become resistant to chemical is the biggest
Wow.
issue. Yeah.
And which one is that?
Palmer amaranth.
Huh.
Yeah.
Has there been any more of that found?
Not yet this season.
Okay.
I was just thinking of some other things. I mean, clearly having a brochure available to everybody, every realtor that sells property in our county,
Mm-hmm.
that's a nice dream.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be very useful, but I know that's really tough.
So my
What's it called?
challenge, all right. Do we want to start at the front and go back, or how do we want to? What's our,
Let's work with, or let's finish up on the list.
Yep.
And then,
Okay.
and
Okay.
then, yeah, then let's move to the front and
Okay.
just, and move
Perfect.
our way through.
Okay.
So in regard to the weed list itself, as far as the county weed list goes, would there be any further change besides what's discussed? Moving the baby's breast, Scotch thistle, perennial sow thistle out of 1, add Palmer amaranth to 1, and strike sunflower from 2. I think those were the changes.
we also discussed adding mullein to 2.
Yes.
I would defer to you two on that, you three rather.
Okay.
So those would be the changes if we're feel we're ready to make a decision, we'd need a motion as such.
Okay.
You got everything? Gonna make a motion to us that will cover everything?
I think you could just move to make the changes as noted.
Okay, all right, I'll make that motion.
I'd second it.
All right, been moved and seconded to make the changes that I just discussed in these two sections of the county weed list. Is there any further discussion about it? Discussion? Discussion, all right. All in favor of the new county weed list as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes.
Okay.
Now, let's move on to these first 10 pages here and just start at the beginning and work our way through. Were there any thoughts that you had noted in the first couple pages?
Okay. And you said that our county attorney will be going through all the different MCA?
Yep.
Okay, all right, good. Because, yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's,
can't comment on that. So,
One thing I wondered was about some of these numbers that we reference in this, like one, for instance, the cost of spotted knapweed being at 42 million. How old a number is that?
it's old. Yeah.
And I wondered how relevant, if it is an ancient number, I wondered how relevant it really is
Yeah.
to current plan, or if we wanted to continue to use that example, maybe we need to look for
A fresher number.
a fresher number.
yeah, that's a good idea.
That's something that could be targeted, I realize, if we don't update it, you know.
And we might even reference the year that the number came from. Just there were a few different, I think there were a couple different examples that were kind of along that line that I noticed throughout that I wondered if we're still relevant.
I wonder if the land administration acreage is relevant then.
We did not check those acres when we revised the plan before. These were the acres that were in the plan. I don't see why we couldn't double check them. A land user information shouldn't be hard to acquire.
Or reference a year for those numbers. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think we've seen some changes in state lands, even locally, very recently. So.
Yeah, well, I guess the number above too, currently Broadwater recognizes state noxious weeds, 36 priority and 5 regulated plants. That number would be different now too.
That was all I had. We discussed everything I noticed on the first couple pages. Is there anything further there?
I found it interesting, you know, that the first legislation was passed in 1939. Hell, that's even before this old fart was born.
Yeah, that's old.
Yes, it is.
All right. All right, so page 7, because we've already done all the weed lists. Do you see anything on bottom of page 7?
I don't, I didn't have anything noted, did you? Gord or Peter?
No.
Okay,
On
let's
page
move on to
7.
page 8.
I guess one of the comments I had about the chemical, there'll be some people that refuse a chemical option on weed control.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess what we would need to see is some kind of a plan for eradication without chemical. Just refusal to apply a chemical is no reason to allow non-management of weedy species. I don't know how to state that.
So this section is outlining how Broadwater County is going to deal with the noxious weeds.
Oh, okay.
So that's, I think that this role is, these are what we're going to do as a county. So we're going to do chemical control, we're going to do education, we're going to use biocontrols. This is how
Okay.
we're approaching.
Okay.
Do you run into problems of people attempting to refuse to allow us to apply chemicals?
I have a couple of people who would prefer, like I control my own on the right-of-ways, but we don't have a program in place for that, so.
But do they have something that'll substitute then?
No, so we still spray it, like,
Oh, I see.
until
Okay.
we get I control my own in full place.
I
Okay.
gotcha.
No, that's good. Thanks.
So-
Oh, yeah, because I can see that could be a real.
And so like Lewis and Clark County has a pretty good I control my own in place, and they verify that the landowners are doing what is agreed upon in that,
Excellent.
and then they have to post signs at the start and the end of their property,
Oh, well, I've seen a couple of those, yeah.
but
One question I had, I assume that our commonly used chemicals have remained the same, just given the inventory that we had.
and this was not supposed to be an
Exclusive list.
exclusive.
Yeah,
This
it's
is
just
just
examples.
examples of.
Yeah. It seems like names are forever changing, and so
Mhm.
it was.
It's not Esplanade, it's Rejuver.
Yeah. And Gray's on Next, I think, has changed.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. Was all I had on 8. Is there anything further that you had, Jessica?
Nope, I just made some notes to check chemical names and update it.
Okay. Page 9.
Actually, can
Yeah.
I make one comment about the revegetation?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
You could request that seed mixtures be noxious weed free.
Mm-hmm.
Would it be also worth saying must be appropriate for the site applied? Like putting in a garden mix where you're going to be high desert or,
Oh, I battle that every day.
I mean, is that an appropriate
Yeah.
request?
I think it would be just
Site
absolutely,
appropriate.
because if it's not, your probability for success is,
None.
yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Good. Looking at page 8 then.
Page 9. Right.
9, yep.
So this is basically how we will keep ourselves safe.
As I was working through and reading to the PPEP, I mean that's tough, but like in our sprayers, we run extensive cab filtration and so on. And when I'm mixing chemicals for my own health, I wear a respirator and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got our employees, from what I've seen, are very, very limited in PPE. And I wondered if, I just wondered your thoughts on
So,
that, I guess.
from my standpoint as a county employee, I will not require respirators to be worn, but they are provided if people want to wear them. Because there's a whole lot of rules that fall into place if I were to require them to be worn from the county side. So we have them, they're available if people would like to wear them. But I do not make it a requirement because then we have to put a whole lot of other procedures and things into place.
What about under mixing? That's always where I felt that the biggest threat for an issue is upon mixing.
Yep.
Not necessarily the application, but the mixing.
So they have eye protection, aprons, and the heavy, thick gloves for mixing.
Mhm.
And then,
Yeah, you're not dealing with any gramoxone or
Nope,
any of that.
we do not use that.
I'd like to make a comment for us, and that is, I noticed several months ago that when I would breathe hard out, there'd be a wheezing sound. And my doctor told me to go take a look at it with a person, and I can't think of the term anyway, who looks at that kind of thing, breathing. And I went through some breathing tests, and I am okay, but because of when it's growing up and not using protective equipment when I was running chainsaws and that kind of thing, and cutting, mowing in very dusty areas, that kind of thing, I did get something down into here in the bottom part of my lungs that has reduced my breathing capabilities somewhat. It's not critical, but just a thought to all of you. Be careful, don't do what I did, I guess I'd
Yeah.
say.
So yeah, basically we have the equipment available, but
Yes,
as a,
Yeah,
that's choice,
Yeah.
yeah.
There'd
If you
be a-
provide it.
fit tests and.
yeah, there's a whole.
There'd be a whole raft of, I
Yeah.
understand
Yes.
why you've approached it the way you have.
Mhm.
I think that's a very good way to
Because then they
approach
have to
it.
do, yeah, there's a whole, yeah, it's,
Yeah, no, I understand.
and then
was
the
thinking
county has to
primarily
put
for
policies
the
in place,
four
there's
of
a,
you, three of you.
Okay, no, I just, that was just something I wondered if there was anything we needed to consider there, so. You've clarified that, thank you.
I see we have no longer have an empty container.
yes. Also, what I have heard from the Department of Agriculture is they are trying to get away from collection sites where members of the public can leave them because they haven't been triple rinsing them. So the person running the equipment has basically been exposed to a whole lot of jugs that are not been properly rinsed. So the large pickups that they do for like the potato farmers and stuff are still going to happen because those people are doing it properly, but the general public collection sites are trying to be phased out because they're not treating it properly. They're not removing labels.
Is not bringing it in properly?
Yeah, so to properly recycle a herbicide jug, it has to be triple rinsed.
Yep.
The label,
Labels
the silver ring has to be removed, and it has to be sliced. And that's not happening. Basically, people are saying they're not getting triple rinse. They might even get one rinse or none rinse from the general consumer. It's not the people who do it professionally who are doing this.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Well, and failure to do that just leads to
Yeah.
piles up of improperly rinsed containers that we get to burn, I guess, right?
Yeah. Or
So, I don't know. That's not a good.
it's
thing. I've
there,
read
there's
about
I don't know if there's a good answer, and I don't know
Okay.
what they're going to do moving forward. But that's
Yeah.
the word that I'm getting is that they're phasing out public collection sites.
So it's our employees that are getting poisoned instead of the people themselves.
Mm-hmm. And they've already lost one driver this year because he thought he was being exposed.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Necessarily.
And it's already hard to find drivers.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh.
Anything else as far as page 9 goes? Page 10.
So this falls into place with what I sent out about the non-compliance language.
Yeah.
Um, at the last meeting, we ran into an issue, or a discussion was happened about when is it appropriate to do enforcement on county listed weeds at what level? Should I be doing enforcement on somebody who has a single plant of say a single musk thistle on their property? Is that an appropriate measure for us to do?
No,
And
this is
so-
number
Well,
one, priority 1A.
Yeah, I would say that's why we have a priority list. of weeds.
But it's in our county listed weeds, so that's,
Oh, I see what
it's
you're
our
saying.
county
Okay.
weeds that we're running into that issue with.
This struck me as being really well.
The only comment I had on that is, I wondered, under the thresholds,
Yes, and that was, please adjust them, that was just a place to get you thinking.
I wondered if we needed to specify over what area. So I mean, it's a whole lot different thing if you've got 30 plants over 600 acres versus 30 plants
Per acre.
per acre.
Mm. Ooh, yeah.
I guess my vision was plants per property size regardless of, this issue has come up with some small acreage subdivisions. So,
And I guess, yeah, where that comment comes from is that I wondered, when we're looking at density, we've got the number of plants, but then do we need to look at the other side of it? So that number of plants over what space? And maybe understanding where the situation you're coming from. But then, if you apply this to a landowner that, with a 2,500 acre block,
Oh, Jesus.
it's a little different to look at than the
5 acre.
quarter acre or acre
So-
lot.
What do you guys suggest? What's a good way to word that?
We
I don't know
say-
what the right parcel size would be, but I do think we need to include it,
Yeah, like you're thinking per acre?
potentially, yeah. Or just some
Yeah,
method of
Mhm.
measure.
I unfortunately drafted this with what the situation I was dealing with in mind. So
Okay,
adjust it as needed.
okay. Were you thinking, your specific example, was it about an acre?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
And I think that'd be appropriate
yeah, so do
Mhm. So just say per acre.
I. But
on a per acre basis. Or
the other thing that I was thinking about too here is some kind of consideration for introduction into adjacent property.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking specifically, you know, coming off the Forest Service or
Mhm.
something that's loaded with hound's tongue. And if this person has a same problem with hound's tongue, I don't know if that should necessarily be a priority compared to other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know how to
Wait,
approach
yeah.
that either, but.
No, and that's valid if I mean, is it reasonable to put the Forest Service in non-compliance? No. So how can I put one person who's being affected by their neighbor in non-compliance?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's totally
Very good
relevant.
question.
Yeah, so maybe you just say with consideration of potential introduction to adjacent property. I don't know.
Mhm.
That's a good point.
Yes.
No.
Or two are from the adjacent property, because if it's coming in from the adjacent property,
Yeah.
what else the landowner gonna do? It's
Yeah,
really
it's
huge.
an ongoing problem at that
Yeah.
point, so, yeah.
I will put this in our language and then we'll
Good.
look at it again. We're gonna look at it again
Perfect.
1,000 times.
I like the concept that you set this thing out in, but I see where it needs just a
No,
little
and
more.
that was my initial
Yeah.
first stab at it. I'm not.
Yes.
I think that it does fall in the B category on the page 10, that should fall under the enforcement where we're,
Mhm.
Okay.
And thinking of numbers, again, and applicable, in, under A in number 1,
Mhm.
the 800, I wondered if was still, you know, if that number goes back forever ago, or if
No,
it's
that was a number
relatively
that-
current.
Nathan and the board came up with when we first revised this in 2019, 2020, whatever, when our first big rewrite of it was.
Right, okay.
So it is
I was just trying to remember. where it came
relatively
from.
up to date, but I mean, we could calculate it with, you know,
I'm not sure that it's that far off.
You know, I think it's actually considering, including application costs.
Yeah.
I think it's really
Yeah.
between 30 and 45. Well, unless it's Rejuvera, which is double, but yeah.
No kidding. Yeah.
Are those prices likely to be current, or is that from many years ago, the $2,500?
I guess,
fairly current.
Oh, good.
Yep. Yeah, I think we're okay there.
okay.
So, Gord, what was the sentence that you pointed out earlier that I cut you off when you were talking about?
I mean, in the non-compliance language or the?
No, it was way when we were back discussing weeds.
Oh, brochure?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would think it would be nice to have it, you know, anybody that's involved in a transaction of property in Broadwater County have at
So,
least be aware of what
do
the noxious
you
weeds are.
think it is worth having somebody design us a brochure and get it printed? I don't feel like I have the skill set. I can provide the information. I don't have the design background to design a brochure.
I think some of the information that you have in that booth at the trade shows,
Mhm.
I think is something to start with. Some nice pretty pictures always go far.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, something to start with.
Basically, I think the brochure should include what the law is in Montana.
Mhm.
And that the landowner should be getting a copy of the weed plan when they get their, like the realtors should pull that out of the plat, like that should be going with them, no matter where they are. That's part of the law, and I don't
Yeah.
think it's happening.
Right.
Can we require that?
Well, it's required, I just don't think it's happening.
I
It's not
see.
enforced.
Yeah, there's not enforcement there.
I honestly think if we could get some buy-in in it being passed on, that it would be worth just from a purely educational standpoint, that
Yes.
it would be worth the cost of having
Um,
somebody put something together.
All right, now my next question for you, is this something that I should take to MWCA and see if we draft a grant to do it statewide? Or do we do it in-house and then come back to it on the state level later?
Which is faster.
Faster would be doing it ourselves.
Yeah.
And we have, as the district, we have the money to have it designed and printed.
Good.
And I don't think it'd be, the cost, I mean, yes, there would be some cost, but I don't think it would be, I think it could be done reasonably,
Mhm.
I guess.
Yeah.
Personally, and if we could get people to start using it and ensure that they are getting the right documentation at closing, I think
Mhm.
it'd be, I think it'd be worthwhile.
Could sure solve a lot of future problems in each case, it seems.
You would be amazed at some of the questions I get from people moving into state on various forage or turf or whatever mixtures. Like I've been asked to provide a Bermuda grass turf mix, you know.
Okay.
So there's a significant education potential here, huge. So, yeah. But
I wonder. If, you know, if a person could make that available to, I mean, you would have it available in when property changes hands, but if it was available to you guys and some of the different, it'd be a tool,
yeah.
I guess, that maybe we could use a little bit wider
Wider,
than
yeah.
just
Mhm.
Sure.
Yeah.
a closing.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be a real education tool that way, and a lot of broad possibilities, I think.
I think that's something
Yeah.
certainly to explore. I guess I feel.
Yeah.
Would you guys
Okay.
agree?
For sure.
So I will update the first 10 pages with all of the stuff that we discussed and bring it to the next meeting.
Okay.
I'll send out my update for you guys first to make sure I caught everything, and then we'll
Perfect.
go over it.
And then be reasonable to continue our way on
Yep.
through it.
So I'll send out the next 10 pages. At some point, we'll run into a bunch of appendices Do we want to review every appendice? Because we'll have the cost share, we'll have the plan, we'll have, do you guys want to review each of those?
I think, I guess I'm certainly open to suggestion, but I wondered, I was looking through some of that and wondered if maybe we have a meeting that just covers the appendices, not necessarily slogging through each one, but if there's comment or need, or it's felt by anybody that there's a need for revision.
The other
on one.
thing I was gonna note is that I thought about making a note at the beginning of the appendices that documents common to multiple will be removed. Like I don't, because then I end up with, like, the weed list is an appendix on a, like, and then all my numbering system is chaotic, so I thought that would clean it up visually.
Yeah,
So the
think
things that
that's
are shared.
appropriate. Yeah, yeah. And then the other thought the reason I wondered about approaching that way is we've covered
Those,
in great detail in recent years
yeah,
the majority of those really.
yeah, I agree.
Plus, you got a huge amount of knowledge here. It'd be great if you could pull it into technology.
So let's, when we hit that part of the document, let's
Just tackle it in one.
tackle it in one meeting and just if it's thought based on review outside the meeting by any individual that any revisions necessary, we'll cover that. Okay, perfect. All right, so we'll unless there's any further comment on these first 10 pages, we'll see the revision and keep moving on in the next meeting. Let's see, and the non-compliance piece is kind of covered in the midst of that too.
Yep.
We've got Mr. Harris has submitted a cost share application, and so need to review that.
I feel like parts of it didn't print properly, and that might have
I
been.
thought I did get that.
Look back here.
I feel like my opinion is that there's some stuff missing in his plan that I think that we could come back to. There's areas like just the monitoring portion is not what we're looking for. Like his monitoring is pressure of the nozzle and putting a bucket under the, like he's attempting to calibrate, but that's not the,
That's definition of calibration.
yep, not what I'm looking for.
Does he know what he's doing?
He is a licensed applicator.
Oh, yes. Okay, I just wondered.
I guess the question I have, if it is Roundup, is it over the top, blanket spray or spot spray? Because if it is blanket spray, this is not eligible for cost share.
Yep. In the past, his thing has been blanket spray, has been full on broadcast treatments. What it has done in the past is to treat his field before planting, so he sprays the entirety of the field. So he's going to look to spray 20 to 40 acres with Roundup. I think it's worth coming back to him and coming back to his application and having him redo it with the,
Under the parameters.
Yeah.
Of the
Parameters
program.
Yep.
of a range seating. This is basically the intent of our program.
yep,
This almost looks like Kemp Fallow.
yes.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you need a motion?
I don't think so,
Okay, good.
because we didn't make that contingent on the cost share program.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
All right, so you'll get in touch with Mr.
Yeah.
Harris then and follow up with that. Perfect.
Thank you.
And moving on then to counts haying cattle first minor sub.
Yes. I have not yet done the site inspection for this property. She did attach a nice little map of what they're trying to do, and she is not aware of any weeds on the property, but she would love to do a walkthrough and identify anything. I just, when she submitted the plan, I wasn't able to walk yet, cover that kind of ground.
She sounds like she wants to
Yeah.
do things positively.
No, it's, the last couple of people who've reached out to do subdivision plans have been very open to the education aspect of it, so.
Excellent, excellent. Shows the value of it.
What is the number of lots or acreage of minor versus major?
So, the Savannah State subdivision below it is just on the plat map. That is not what they're subdividing.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
So what they're doing on the amended, they're amending track 1 to put a home site on
Oh,
a
that
field.
is- Okay.
Right.
So basically, they're pulling out a chunk of the field to be a home site, as I understand it.
Okay.
As a complete subdivision or a mortgage survey?
You now know what I know.
Okay.
To my extent, they're calling
Sounds
it a
like
minor
it's a
subdivision.
Okay. Yep. I've seen it done both ways, so.
Mm-hmm. Because I believe the Savannah State subdivision is already in place.
This is a one-lot split, essentially.
Yep.
I missed that part of it.
Yep.
I didn't see anything that jumped out at me.
Yep.
They do reference the possibility of 2 home sites, but I don't see it, even if they,
And I believe that they're allowed by the subdivision regulations to put a second, like a second home on the same lot.
okay.
That they don't have to make a second subdivision. But I'm not sure on,
Okay.
I would make the motion to accept the plan as presented, contingent field inspection by Jessica.
I would second that.
Okay, it's been properly moved and seconded to accept and approve the Counts Hay and Cattle First Minor Subdivision plan as presented, subject to Jessica's site inspection and contingent upon it. Is there any further discussion?
Not for me.
Discussion? discussion? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
I,
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. That brings us to our roundtable. Anything to add?
No.
All right. Thanks for being here. We appreciate you. Jessica?
Oh, the county is looking at updating our website and changing website vendors. With the goal of making a more user-friendly website. When they asked for my input, I said I really like the website that the Missoula extension and weed service do. So if you guys want to take a look at that website, especially the weed side of it, that's what I would love mine to look like. They've got a page for each noxious weed on tips for controlling it. They've got, you know, calibration. It's just a really well-designed website, and I'd really like to see something like that
This
for us
Missoula
too.
County?
Missoula. It's theirs is a combined with the weed district and extension are
Oh,
combined.
I see.
But it's a very, very nifty website.
Okay.
So that when they asked me what I wanted to do with it, I said I want to do that.
Huh.
Very good.
And then,
Okay.
like Peter mentioned, the Text My Gov is coming out. So we'll implement that more on the mosquito side about when we're doing applications. But if it works like it could, we could also notify landowners that our weed crews are going to be in their area over the next couple of days. So we could circle like Dry Gulch, and all those residents who signed up would be notified that the weed crew will be working in their area as another way for public information.
Sure.
That's all I've got.
Okay. Peter, anything?
No, I'm glad to hear of what's going on just right there.
Gordon?
I guess on our ground we've got something we haven't had before on our property, and I know what it is because of where I came from, but white cockle or bladder campion, right against our canal.
Really?
It's a mess, yeah. But I'm assuming it floated down the canal, but we're dealing with it. It's not yeah. Anyway, it's
What
a
is
fun
it?
one.
Mm-hmm.
It's a new weed, and I'm unfortunately
Oh,
familiar
I see.
with it from where I moved from. So
Oh, I see.
yeah, but
Has the board noticed it anywhere else?
It looks like that.
Yeah.
I grew up with it too.
you did, okay.
Yep.
Lucky. So yeah, we actually had our crew out pulling it
Oh, boy.
because in the crop that it's in, we can't spray it out for sure.
Okay, yeah.
Uh-huh.
My
Okay.
kids brought that to me, wondering what it was.
Oh, really?
And
That's
I
it.
looked,
Yeah.
I couldn't find it.
Yeah. Was it up against the canal?
I'm gonna have to go back and ask him. This
Okay.
was within the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
I
That's-
haven't had anybody else mention it yet.
Yeah.
Or
Well,
it was
maybe.
no, somebody sent him a picture
Hmm.
of it. They live over here and we're asking my son what it was. That's what it was. And he brought a picture of it to Kay and I when was asking us that it could be along that canal because
Yeah.
it was out here east of town.
Yep. Ours is about a half mile upstream of that in our small Burnett field. So.
Huh.
Yep. Anyway, I think that's all I have.
Interesting. That was the first time I'd seen it.
It's a nasty one.
Mm-hmm.
Rate of spread is ugly.
Yeah, there's like a gazillion seeds per pod too.
Similar to handmade now.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, really tough on all legume crops to control. And yeah, you can get it in grasses, but that's about it.
Well, I'll get back in touch with them. That's good to know. Tell them to eradicate it. It's not a large parcel, thankfully, so it's possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Anything else?
I think that's enough. That's good. The Edmonton Oilers are playing tonight, so
I
we
know.
gotta get back. So don't tell them.
All right, I don't have anything further to add either. So with that, our next meeting will be July 16th at 7, so that we can get Gord on his way.
Gord, if I knew you wanted to watch
Meeting's
the
adjourned.
game, I would have put it on.
Well, I got it. It's taping. I'm gonna watch it right from the start when I get home. So
Yeah.
yeah.